She thought he was an incredible bartender, but the shocking truth revealed his dark mafia ties. Emily sipped her cocktail, the vibrant colors swirling like the chaos in her mind. Each shift at the hospital drained the life out of her. Between hurried rounds and frantic families, she longed for a moment of escape. Here at the Lantern, the laughter of patrons created an intoxicating soundtrack, pulling her away from the endless responsibilities of single motherhood. But tonight, as Marco's warm smile illuminated the dim bar, the draw of his presence set off a rattle in her chest, equal parts exhilaration and dread. She felt drawn to him like a moth to flame, but the flickering doubt reminded her of the dangers lurking in the shadows. Though her heart fluttered at the thought of Marco's charm, her father's warning hovered in her mind like a specter. "Stay away from guys like him," he had said, his voice low and grave over the phone. With every visit, her father had etched moral values into her being, but now they nagged her like an old wound. Who was she to risk her daughter's safety, her heart pinned to a man who knitted connections to danger? Yet, the way Marco listened, his laughter rolling like a daring wave, made her question if any risk was worth this glimpse of joy, something she hadn't felt since her divorce. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Sipping another drink, she felt warmth spread within her, warming the cold confines of the choices she faced. Their nights blended into a dance, flirty banter, kisses that tasted of adventure and unknown. But then, doubt slithered through, heavier than her responsibilities. Was she burying her head in the sand, oblivious to the storm brewing just outside this door? Marco carried an allure that tempted her to forget the past, yet she sensed an undercurrent of fear hiding behind his sparkling eyes. Each time he went a little quiet, it felt like a countdown to a revelation, an unspoken truth that could shatter everything. And then there was the moment when her father, his face lined with worry, stood in her doorway one afternoon. The tension in the room thickened as he conveyed the stakes, his voice low and urgent. Whispers of Marco's name twisted around her like vines, closing in. She wondered, could he really be connected to the very world her father had fought against? Each beat in her heart screamed at her to turn away, yet the warmth of Marco's affection enveloped her, igniting conflicting feelings. Fear and desire twined together, forming an unbreakable bond. As violence surged through the neighborhoods of Chicago, Emily became increasingly aware that the stakes faded into something far beyond the realm of an innocent romance. The barriers she had built to protect her daughter faltered under the weight of newfound emotions. Was she really willing to step off the cliff of safety into the murky waters of love? And every time she caught Marco's eye, a frisson of truth pulsed between them, promising either salvation or doom. Standing at the edge of despair and hope, the world around her erupted into chaos. A loud crash reverberated through the street, shattering her fragile moment of clarity. Emily's heart raced, her breath stalling. In the face of danger, reality bore down, forcing her towards an impossible choice. Safety or love? The echo of that choice loomed over her, an unanswered question pulsating in the night. Emily stepped out of the lantern, her heart pounding in rhythm with the chaos outside. The crash lingered in her ears, breathing life into the monster of doubt festering in her mind. She might have been wandering through the shadows of desire, but reality had just tapped her on the shoulder, demanding her attention. The cold night air hit her like a splash of cold water, forcing her to steady her racing thoughts. Each decision she faced stretched before her like an unending road, twisting and turning into the unknown. She could almost hear her father's cautionary voice echoing in the back of her mind, warning her that every choice had consequences, especially in a city like Chicago, where danger lurked behind seemingly innocent smiles. The vibrant colors of the cocktail she had enjoyed moments ago now felt like a veneer that masked something darker, something threatening. She fumbled for her phone, her fingers numb as she considered calling her father. How much had he been through to keep her safe? Yet, even the thought of reaching out made her feel smaller, as if admitting her attraction to Marco would strip her of his respect. While emotions wrestled in her chest, logically, she knew that the affection she felt for Marco was more than a reckless fling. It was a desire for connection, an escape from the suffocating predictability of her daily life. This thought reignited the warmth inside her, reminding her of the small joys those stolen moments with Marco had brought. But warmth felt dangerous now, the allure of comfort tangled with the risk of plunging into an abyss of chaos. As the wind picked up, tossing loose paper into the air, Emily gazed at the street, where police lights painted the scene in hues of urgency. How many others faced their own choices tonight? Each person moved with their own burdens, their choices leading them down divergent paths. It made her question, what path was she on? Would she walk toward the thrill that Marco represented or retreat into a shadow of safety for the sake of her daughter? A flicker of brilliance ignited in her mind. Maybe she could confront this situation, dissect it, and reveal the truth behind Marco. What did she truly know about him? A bartender with a magnetic presence, were those eyes merely a facade hiding secrets? What if beneath the charm was a man trapped in a life he could not escape? She took a deep breath, fueled by determination. Although her instincts screamed to protect her daughter at all costs, what about her own happiness? Wasn't she also deserving of a life filled with warmth, love, and laughter? Facing uncertainty was no easy task, but this was her moment to wrestle her fears to the ground. That resolve led her to decide, she would investigate, gently peel back the layers of Marco's world. The research would require tact, her role as a single mother demanded she tread carefully through this labyrinth of emotions and danger. As she turned to head back inside the bar, her heart pounding with purpose, a figure emerged in her periphery, a shadow cloaked in an air of unfamiliarity. The tension thickened. She instinctively felt the shift in atmosphere, a warning bell of something approaching, something that hinted at confrontation. Was it merely a ghost from Marco's life, or had she unwittingly stepped into the very danger she was trying to unravel? With a mix of trepidation and resolve, Emily stood at the cusp of a revelation, her heart caught between love and survival. The choice before her was now more pronounced than ever: unravel the enigma of Marco, or risk losing everything. Their worlds had begun to collide, and the time had come for her to learn the truth no matter the cost. Emily's breath hitched as she met the gaze of the figure stepping toward her. The streetlights cast an eerie glow, illuminating the face that emerged from the shadows. He was familiar, yet not someone she expected to see. It was Danny, a friend from her college days, but his presence here felt out of place, unsettlingly so. "What are you doing here?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady, masking the swirl of anxiety beneath the surface. Danny, hands tucked into the pockets of his well-worn leather jacket, looked around the street like a wary animal. "I was just passing through," he replied, though his eyes revealed an urgency that contradicted his words. "You shouldn't be out here alone, Emily. Things are getting dangerous in these parts." Her mind raced. He had always been the cautious type, but tonight, his warning felt laced with something deeper, a hint of protectiveness or possibly fear. "What do you know?" she countered, crossing her arms. The tension in her body mirrored the tightening of her chest. She wasn't just an old friend, she was a mother trying to protect her daughter, tangled in a web far more complicated than she had anticipated. "More than you think," he replied, stepping closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "That bartender you're so taken with? Marco, he's not what he seems." A rush of defensiveness surged through her. "You don't know him," she snapped, but doubt crept into her mind. "Trust me. You have no idea who you're playing with." Danny's intensity ramped up, and Emily felt the walls of her carefully constructed world begin to crack. She had come here seeking clarity and confidence, not this flood of uncertainty. "Why are you warning me?" "We haven't seen each other in years," Emily asked, her voice trembling. "Because I know this city and the type of people that lurk in it. Marco isn't just a bartender. His ties run deep." The implication hung heavy in the air, wrapping around her thoughts, sifting through the layers of her emotions. 1,000 questions flooded her mind. Was she truly attracted to a man entrenched in a dangerous lifestyle? Every moment she had spent with Marco rushed back, previously sweetened by nostalgia now tainted with panic. Would her desire for connection blind her to the truth? As clarity settled in, it brought with it a newfound resolve. The investigation she had planned wouldn't just be about Marco. It would be about protecting her daughter while simultaneously digging into the depths of her own choices. She needed to confront the layers of fear and hope tangled within her, to steer her path toward whatever light remained. "Help me find out what's going on," she demanded, her voice taking on a new authority she had not felt before. "If Marco is who you say he is, then I have to know. This isn't just about me anymore." Danny nodded slowly, the lines of caution etched on his face. "We'll dig together. But you need to be prepared for what you might find. Truth is rarely kind." As he spoke, a flicker of determination ignited within her. Moving toward the truth felt like grappling with the shadows of her own choices, each decision bearing the weight of her hopes for a vibrant life, a future she envisioned for herself and her daughter. "We start tomorrow," Emily declared, her voice hardened with resolve. The night suddenly felt charged, brimming with the urgency of dawning discoveries and impending confrontation. As she turned to leave, Danny called after her, "You really think you can handle whatever's waiting?" The weight of his question hung in the air, but it fueled her spirit. The time had come, not just to uncover Marco's truth but to unearth her own hidden strengths and fears. With the night sky stretching above her, Emily felt the convergence of her past and her present fear and possibility intertwined. The battle within her had just begun, and she prepared herself to leap into the storm, ready to make decisions that would ultimately define her fate. What awaited her felt like a revelation loomed, one that would mark her path forward in ways she couldn't yet predict. As she retraced her steps back to the bar, a new sense of purpose coursed through her veins, mingling uneasily with the echoes of doubt that remained. She was ready to face what lay ahead, the truth behind Marco, whatever the cost might be. The morning light filtered through her curtains, transforming the room into a canvas of soft golds and gentle shadows. Emily lay in bed, heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Her mind replayed her conversation with Danny, his urgent warning echoing in her head. Was she truly prepared for the truths lurking beneath the surface? As she sat up, she made a decision. Today was not just another day, it was a turning point. With a deeper sense of purpose, she prepared herself, pulling on jeans and a navy blue blouse, a stark contrast to the vibrant dress she had worn on her date with Marco. The shift mirrored a transformation within her. She was stepping away from the frivolity and illusions into a realm of stark reality. The coffee brewed as she paced the small kitchen, contemplating the implications of her exploration into Marco's life. She would have to confront her fears head-on, but with every step towards truth, she felt something awakening inside her, a resilience she hadn't recognized before. Once her daughter had left for school, she grabbed her journal, pages filled with ideas and half-formed notions about her life, her choices, and her future. Now it would serve a new purpose, a record of her journey towards discovery. There wasn't just the specter of Marco's secrets looming ahead, there was also her need to clarify her own desires and motivations. What was she willing to risk, not just for herself but for her daughter's sake? With the journal in hand, Emily texted Danny, confirming their meetup. She felt exhilarated and terrified. Her path was uncharted. In the back of her mind, a nagging doubt seeped through. What if she stumbled upon something she wasn't ready to face? At the cafe where they agreed to meet, the scent of fresh pastries mingled with the hum of conversation. She spotted Danny, leaning against the wall, fidgeting with his phone. The moment she approached, a flash of discomfort passed over his face. Was it apprehension about what they were about to unveil? "Thanks for coming," she said, steadying her voice. "Let us get started." They chose a table in a quiet corner, where she opened her journal, laying out her notes about Marco and her observations from their dates. Danny listened intently, his expression shifting from concern to firm resolve as she listed her instincts about Marco's world. The colorful details of their interactions, once sweet and nostalgic, now had an underlying tension that vibrated through her words. Once she finished, Danny leaned forward, his brow creased. "You're deeper in this than I thought. We need to be methodical. Gather as much intel as we can about him, people he associates with, places he frequents." The gravity of their task loomed ahead, but Emily felt emboldened. This wasn't merely about her relationship with Marco, it was foundational to her identity and role as a mother. The more they uncovered, the clearer the potential dangers to her daughter would become. Danny's phone buzzed, pulling him from their focused discussion. As he glanced at the screen, his demeanor shifted. We need to tread carefully. But if he's indeed tied to something dark, a sharp tension snaked through her, an electric jolt cutting across her optimism. What if she exposed herself to dangers she couldn't anticipate? Danny, she hesitated, her heart racing. What if we discover that Marco is involved in something far worse than we can imagine? Will I regret this? He locked his gaze on hers, unwavering. You need to decide if your curiosity is worth the risk. But remember, every choice you make now shapes your future. Those words struck deep, an echo of their pasts colliding with the current reality. She didn't just seek answers about Marco, she was reclaiming her narrative, reconfiguring the daunting choices that had hung over her life like a dark cloud. As her determination swelled, Emily realized she was no longer a passive observer in her life. She would conclude this chapter with her own resolution, confront the dangers that lurked in Marco's path, and, in doing so, take ownership of her choices. The tension between them hung thick, charged with urgency. There was no turning back now, they were on the precipice of something monumental, ready to face revelations that could change everything. Tomorrow, their search would deep dive into Marco's world, but for today, she felt a flicker of hope, coupled with the piercing clarity of her own resolve. With a renewed sense of courage, she asked Danny, "What's next if we find out more than we bargained for?" In that moment, the gravity of their quest resurfaced, and Emily sensed they were edging closer to a decision that could redefine not only her relationship with Marco but also the entire course of her life. Emily awoke the next morning, her thoughts racing with the implications of their plan. Today, they would dig deeper, and the stakes had never felt higher. She stretched and took a deep breath, as if trying to inhale courage. Over the past few days, she had started teetering on the brink of an abyss, one that revealed not just the potential darkness within Marco, but also the strength within herself. With a mixture of dread and anticipation, she brewed her morning coffee, her thoughts circling back to Danny's insistence on being methodical. His guidance had ignited something within her, a flame she hadn't fully realized was there. She poured the hot liquid into her favorite mug, the bold colors of the design contrasting sharply with the brewing storm in her mind. After dropping her daughter off at school, Emily sat in her cluttered kitchen and opened her journal to a blank page. The crispness of the paper seemed to beckon her. What did it mean to uncover the truth? As she wrote, she poured out her thoughts, her fears, her hopes, and her determination to shield her daughter from harm. This wasn't just about Marco, it was about her future, and the choices that would ripple through their lives. She penned, "I am more than a spectator in my life. I'm choosing to confront my fears, and I'm ready to forge my own path." The words poured out like an incantation, empowering her. It was an affirmation that she was not powerless, that she had agency over her story, despite the unpredictable elements weaving through it. The sun cast a warm glow through her kitchen window as Emily finished her coffee and grabbed her bag. Today, she was set to meet Danny at a small bar, a place Marco frequented. She hesitated for a moment, contemplating the wisdom of her choice. What if this led to trouble? The resonating thoughts warned her of possible dangers, yet curiosity pulled her like a magnet. When she arrived, the dimly lit space was alive with laughter and the clinking of glasses, but Emily was hyper-aware of her surroundings. She spotted Danny seated at the bar, an air of grim determination about him, his eyes scanning the room. "Ready?" he asked, his voice low. "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her heart racing. They took a booth at the back, where Danny began to lay out a plan. He had compiled a list of names and connections that could potentially lead to Marco's world. She listened intently, a sense of agency flowing through her as Danny outlined their approach. They allocated roles. She would observe Marco subtly, gathering information without raising suspicions. Danny would connect with some of his own sources, relying on his established networks to dig deeper into the shadows surrounding Marco. "Stay alert," he reminded her. "The people he associates with will tell us a lot about who he really is." The weight of their mission settled heavily between them. She felt the thrill of danger spark in her veins. This wasn't just information gathering, it felt more like an ancient rite of passage, a journey of self-discovery forged in the fires of risk. Before they moved out, Danny examined her closely. "You're strong, Emily. Don't let fear dictate your actions. Trust your instincts." She nodded, though a part of her wavered. Each interaction with Marco now carried the potential to unravel her perception of him, and of herself. As they exited the bar, she felt the familiar flutter in her chest, but it was different this time. She wasn't just afraid, she was determined. They spent the next few hours canvassing the areas Marco frequented. Each place unveiled fragments of his existence, hints at a life shrouded in secrecy. The deeper they probed, the more intriguing and unsettling the clues became. A bartender mentioned a friend of Marco's who had a dubious reputation, someone connected to unsavory dealings. Emily's pulse quickened at the implications. This wasn't just forbidden love she was hunting, it was a labyrinth filled with perilous choices. And she was navigating through its dark corridors, one footstep after another. What if he really is tied to something dangerous? She voiced, more to herself than Danny, grappling with the gnawing thought that wouldn't he shake loose. "Then we need to be prepared to confront it," he replied firmly, locking eyes with her in an unyielding stare. The reality settled around them, tinging the air with a mixture of adrenaline and anxiety. Suddenly, she found herself at a crossroads, not only in her personal life but in her growth. Would she uncover truths that would shatter her world? Would she become someone she wasn't prepared to be? As they turned a corner, she spotted Marco across the street, laughing with a group of men who radiated a menacing aura. She froze, caught between the thrill of discovery and the weight of her haunting doubts. "Emily," Danny nudged her, breaking her reverie. "What do we do?" The moment of truth arrived. The tangled web she had unwittingly stepped into was becoming all too real. Would she turn back, or would she face the deeper shadows of Marco's world head-on? Emily's heart raced as she clutched her bag tighter, weighing the secrets behind Marco's laughter against the burgeoning courage she had cultivated. The sight of him, at ease and surrounded by men who appeared to thrive on intimidation, stirred a storm of thoughts within her. How had she misjudged him? Or was it simply a product of a life she had yet to understand? "Emily." Danny's voice pierced through her tumult of emotion. "This is our shadow, our opportunity. We need to approach this carefully." She nodded, but her mind was a tangled mess. The person she thought she knew was undermined by these revelations. Was she really prepared to delve deeper? Every instinct told her to retreat, yet there remained a spark of defiance to unlock the door of uncertainty. As they moved closer, hidden within the throngs of people, every step felt monumental. She could feel Danny next to her, his presence both reassuring and grounding. "If we get caught, keep it casual," he whispered. "We're just two friends out for a casual drink." Casual. Emily found the word both amusing and hauntingly ironic. What lay ahead was anything but, it was a chasm of reckoning. With each calculated step, she could feel her identity reshape, adventurous and audacious. It was only when they stood almost parallel to Marco that she felt the gravity of the choice ahead of her. "Act natural," Danny said, and for a fleeting second, she allowed herself the humor and the ridiculous nature of their mission. With a deep breath that tasted of resolve, she turned to Danny. "What do we need to learn?" His eyes darted to the men around Marco. "Their interactions will tell us more about him. Watch closely." Time felt weightless as the tension unfurled in the air. She subtly studied Marco's body language, the way he leaned into conversations and the laughter he threw effortlessly, a mesmerizing blend of charm and authority. But each laugh was like a stone dropped into Emily's gut. The farther she delved into his facade, the more she questioned if she truly knew him beneath that surface. Suddenly, one of the men moved closer, his voice rising above the din. "You handled that situation better than last time, Marco." The comment was laden with something darker, a brotherhood forged in shadows. Emily's pulse quickened. "What situation?" Danny caught her gaze, silently urging her to stay focused. But the thrill of the chase clashed with a nagging unease. Was she merely a pawn in this dangerous game? The corrupted parts of reality threatened her. She knew too little about Marco now. Every shred of new information brought her one step closer to a truth she was not sure she was ready to confront. As Marco responded, his laughter faded, replaced with a cool demeanor. "Next time, we'll handle it differently. Trust me." His words sent a shiver down her spine. What was he truly capable of? Each new piece synthesized the man she thought she knew and the possible monster lingering beneath. She looked at Danny, who appeared slightly more tense, the glint of purpose in his eyes fierce. "We should leave soon," he suggested, "before this escalates. We've gathered enough to probe deeper later." The prospect of fleeing this discovery felt suffocating. What if she hesitated, weighing the consequences of what she was about to say? What if I want to stay? What if I want to really see who he is? Danny's surprise was palpable, a mix of concern and respect shadowing his features. "Emily, we need to prioritize safety. This isn't just a mystery. It's a risk." But a risk was what she needed, a deeper revelation. "I think I can do this," she asserted, her voice steadying despite the tremors in her chest. Within the maelstrom of truths, she felt herself anchoring. She wasn't just searching for Marco but also for a part of herself that yearned to be unbound from fear. As she made the decision to stay, the air thickened with tension. What she would uncover could redefine everything, and maybe, just maybe, she was ready for it. They lingered, the moment stretching as the momentum of choices coalesced into a decision that would thrust her deeper into Marco's world. Would she emerge from this with answers, or was she only stepping into a labyrinth more intricate than she had ever imagined? The air crackled as she prepared to embrace whatever darkness lay ahead, knowing that the true revelation about Marco and her own capacity for courage was about to unfold. The laughter erupted around Marco like a thick fog, wrapping Emily in a web of tension and mystery. She could feel the weight of his presence, magnetic and dangerous, as his charisma drew in those around him like moths to a flame. Each exchange sent her thoughts spiraling deeper into uncertainty. Who was this man, and why had she let him slip into the crevices of her life without question? Emily's mind raced as she battled conflicting urges. Her desire to understand him clashed with her instinct screaming danger. This was no longer a simple endeavor of curiosity, it had morphed into a stark confrontation with the unknown, and she felt each heartbeat echo as a challenge. What did he mean by handling the situation differently? She murmured to Danny, hoping to reaffirm her position in the unfolding drama. Danny leaned in, his expression serious. "It sounds like there are things happening that we don't yet grasp. We need to tread carefully." The moment stretched, and Emily's resolve solidified. She had entered Marco's world willingly, and she was determined not to falter. With newfound clarity, Emily began to watch with purpose, noting how Marco commanded respect from the men around him, his laughter a tool of manipulation rather than camaraderie. Beneath the surface charm lay something darker, and she felt her instincts sharpening. She turned to Danny, her voice low but firm. "What if we can turn the tables, Danny? If we understand his networks, maybe we can maneuver into a position of strength." His brow furrowed, skepticism in his gaze. "Or we become part of that darkness. You need to think about what you're risking. This isn't just about him anymore, it's about you. Your life." His words grounded her momentarily, yet Emily's heart craved the thrill of what lay ahead. "But this could be my moment to redefine myself. I can't keep living in fear." Danny's scrutiny did not waver. "You're playing with fire, Emily. You need to know where the line is before you cross it." With a nod, she turned her focus back to Marco, replaying his words in her mind. They were not flippant, they were promises veiled in menace. Each laughter now sounded like a bell tolling, forewarning her about the depths of his life she was racing toward. She could almost hear the fabric of her old self tearing, making way for someone unafraid to confront the wild unknown. Only then did she notice a shift in the dynamic around Marco as a newcomer entered the circle, his presence formidable. The conversation hushed, shadows flitting across faces, and Emily sensed a shift, a flux of energy that propelled her instincts to the forefront. Danny shifted uneasily, catching her attention. "We need to move," he urged again, voice tight with caution. This could escalate into something ugly. For an instant, fear washed over her, but it was swiftly replaced with fierce determination. "No. I'm not leaving yet. I need to hear what they're discussing." With her heart pounding like a war drum, Emily inched closer, straining to catch snippets of conversation. The newcomer's tone was authoritative, and Emily felt the tangible weight of authority pressing down on her. "Next week, we tighten our hold," the newcomer said, gesturing sharply. "No mistakes this time." A chill danced along Emily's spine. The stakes were higher than she had imagined. It wasn't a simple misunderstanding, it was a clandestine world of power intermingled with peril, each word resonating as an echo of unwitting participation. In that moment, Emily felt a flicker of fear clash with a fire of bravery. She wasn't merely an observer anymore, she was stepping into a role that could either destroy her or forge her anew. There was no going back, her identity would forever shift at this crossroads. The air buzzed with unspoken threats, and her heart raced with the weight of the decision she had made. What would she learn in the depths of Marco's world? In pursuing this hidden truth, she stood on the precipice of her old self, daring to leap into the abyss. Would she emerge with the wisdom to navigate a path forward, or would she crumble under the revelations she was chasing? What awaited her at the turn of this dark inquiry could very well redefine her life forever. With a whisper of resolve, she braced herself for what could come next, a path of secrets beckoning her deeper than she had yet traveled. The truth was agonizingly close, and Emily knew that soon, she would have to confront the very essence of who she had chosen to become. Emily shifted her weight as the atmosphere thickened with impending tension, every whispered word reverberating through her like a dark melody of warning. She felt exposed yet vividly alive, the thrill of danger coursed through her veins, urging her to discover more. Marco and the newcomer appeared ensconced in their subtext, each phrase a thread weaving a complicated tapestry of power, and she was determined to unravel it. The newcomer's name slipped through the murmurs. Adrian, and Emily noted how those within the circle gravitated towards him with an almost hypnotic fervor. His confidence radiated a kind of energy that both captivated and unsettled. Emily couldn't shake the notion that Adrian was not merely another player, he was a master of some hidden game where the consequences ran deep. "Next week, we tighten our hold. No mistakes this time." The phrase echoed in her mind, imprinting itself onto her consciousness. What were they tightening? And who were the players caught in their web? Her resolve crystallized further. She needed clarity, insight behind the carefully constructed facades. Danny reached for her arm, his grip grounding, but his eyes were laced with urgent caution. "What you're contemplating could draw you in as much as it pushes them away. Do you really want that?" Deep down, a voice echoed its dissent. This was her chance, the opportunity to elevate herself beyond the ordinary. "It's not about wanting, Danny. It's about necessity. I need to understand what I'm walking into," she whispered back, the vulnerability in her voice revealing a fracture in her bravado. With each passing moment, her surroundings morphed into a theater of manipulation that was shifting ever closer to her center. Every laugh, every glance, every whisper became an instrument in a symphony of deception. She felt a deep instinct to collect intel, exposed yet unyielding. Stepping out of the shadow cast by doubt and fear, Emily resolved to transform the vulnerability into weaponry. If she could earn their trust, even for a moment, perhaps she'd learn the truth behind the glitz and the shadows. Beyond fear lay a territory where power was not merely seized, but crafted. Quietly, she moved towards Marco, determining to engage. "You had said something earlier about handling things differently. What did you mean by that?" Her voice was steady, belying the storm brewing inside. Marco turned, surprise flashing across his features, rapidly replaced by a calculating smile. He was intrigued. Well, sometimes it's not about what happens, but how it's handled," he replied cryptically, his eyes flickering with a blend of appreciation and caution. In that moment, she understood. He recognized her ambition, sensed her determination. It thrilled her, yet cautioned her spirit. "You've navigated these waters before, haven't you?" I want to learn. Teach me. For a heartbeat, silence reigned as he assessed her. The soft buzz of conversation faded into a distant hum, sharpening everything around them. You might just regret that request, he mused, his tone nonchalant yet saturated with the weight of veiled threats. But there it was, the invitation she craved. Behind that dangerous gaze lay knowledge, experience, power. Challenges awaited, daunting yet exhilarating. I think I'm ready to embrace that risk. The words slipped out before she could temper them with caution. In his eyes, she saw a flicker of admiration. Then, with a slight nod, he gestured towards Adrian, who had been observing them keenly. You'll want to understand Adrian too. Activities here are often interconnected, he stated casually, but Emily felt the tension tightened, her heart racing. Networking wasn't just socializing, it was an intricate dance. Each step matters. Let us see how dedicated you really are. Marco's words felt like an ultimatum and an invitation all at once. Little did she know, accepting this challenge would draw her deeper into the labyrinthine complexity of Marco's world. Burning curiosity intertwined with fear now propelled her. The stakes had grown higher, their shadows longer. She could feel her old self forking away, a change rooted in her desperation for growth and enlightenment. What did true mastery look like in this chaotic underworld? What would she uncover about herself when compelled to navigate the overlapping layers of darkness, ambition, and intrigue that surrounded her? Emily gave herself no time to ponder the possible consequences of her journey. Her next move would determine if she could emerge transformed or forever ensnared in a world she sought to conquer. She needed to outwit the unseen prophets of this new life before she faded into irrelevance. As the evening waned, a new realm beckoned. There were truths waiting at the other end of this path, dark revelations that promised transformation. Would she seize them, shattering all expectations? Or would the machinations of a world she barely understood pull her under before she had a chance to rise? Emily took a deep breath, feeling the weight of Marco's eyes on her, poised between excitement and trepidation. Their conversation had taken a turn that promised growth but twisted with the threat of danger. She glanced around the room again, observing the players, the interconnected lives that pulsed through this clandestine atmosphere. Choosing this path meant she was no longer a mere observer, she was now a participant. Engaging with Marco and Adrian was only the beginning, she needed to cultivate alliances, navigate treachery, and assert her position if she wanted to thrive. Determined, she focused on Marco. What do I need to do? The question emerged with urgency, layered with a sense of willingness to embrace whatever challenges lay ahead. Marco smiled, slow and thoughtful. To understand this world fully, you need to step into the shadows. Trust must be earned, and connections must be forged with care. Start with Adrian. He is a key player, albeit a dangerous one. The notion sent a chill down Emily's spine. Danger was an inevitable part of her new reality, discomfort a necessary companion on this journey of transformation. I can handle him, she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She could feel the anticipation weaving through her, electrifying her resolve. As the evening progressed, the air thickened with intoxicating spirits and pervasive schemes. Emily intentionally approached Adrian, who stood across the room, laughter spilling from a group engaged in lively conversation. Each step felt heavy with implications, yet a surge of boldness buoyed her. Can I join? She asked, trying to mask her vulnerability behind an inviting smile. Adrian looked up, surprise etching his features before his lips curled into a bemused smirk. Sure. Not many venture into our circle willingly, he remarked, a glint of curiosity sparking in his eyes. Isn't it more fun this way? She replied, surprising herself with the confidence of her tone. Inside, she battled a whirlpool of apprehension and excitement. Adrian leaned back, a predatory gleam in his gaze. Most find it intimidating. You seem different, why is that? This isn't about intimidation for me. It's about opportunity, Emily answered, a hidden meaning lacing her words. Opportunity, you say? That's a dangerous game, he warned, his voice dipping lower, almost conspiratorial. But for Emily, it echoed as a challenge. "I'm willing to play." Intrigued, Adrian tilted his head. "Tell me, what makes you think you can keep up in a world you barely know?" Emily felt her pulse quicken, every nerve now aligned with purpose. "I'm not afraid of the unknown. I'm ready to learn the rules so I can bend them when necessary." The words poured out with an assertive clarity. Adrian regarded her, assessing. Around them, the conversation flourished, laughter mingling with muted secrets, yet they remained ensconced in their own sphere. "I admire your bravado. I'll be honest though, ambition often leads to peril," he stated softly, his tone deceptively genial. "Peril can sharpen focus," she replied, meeting his gaze unwaveringly. "What happens next depends on my choices, doesn't it?" A flicker of excitement lanced through Adrian's expression. "Perhaps. Let us see if you can handle it." Emily understood it was an invitation, a test more than a suggestion. The invisible scales of power were tipping, and she had committed herself to a path of relentless exploration. Later, as they continued to converse, she absorbed everything, carefully navigating the intricacies of Adrian's charisma and Marco's subtleties. Her mind buzzed with possibility. Maybe she could engineer her own alliances, wield the network as a blade rather than a shield. But every layer she uncovered revealed further complexity, threading back to Marco's warning. Trust was an elusive currency in this secretive domain. Lurking alongside ambition was fear, the fear of losing herself in the very ambitions she chased. The night unraveled, and as the shadows grew longer, she felt the world shift around her. Challenges loomed ahead, promising both enlightenment and peril. In the space where manipulation and desire converged, an opportunity beckoned. Yet a question gnawed at her: how far was she willing to push herself in pursuit of power before losing sight of who she was? As the evening concluded, she left the gathering with Adrian's words echoing in her mind, a haunting refrain reminding her that every game had its rules, but every player had their secrets. And she was determined to unearth them. What awaited her next was an encounter with forces that promised to illuminate her path, but could just as easily plunge her deeper into darkness. Would she find the empowerment she sought, or would she discover a precarious web of betrayal beneath the surface? Emily stepped into her living room, the soft light filtering through sheer curtains, casting shadows that danced on the walls. After weeks of navigating the dark labyrinth of Marco's world, she had finally peeled back the layers of mystery. Each revelation steered her closer to clarity, yet deep down, she understood the stakes of the game. The profound changes within herself had started to crystallize. No longer was she the woman overwhelmed by fear, tethered to the safety of the familiar. She had emerged as a force determined to define her own narrative. This journey had illuminated her resilience, showing her that danger could yield self-discovery. After the tense encounter with Adrian, their discussions had led her to uncover Marco's true connections, merging her suspicions with the gravity of undeniable truths. Marco wasn't just a charming bartender. He was entangled with one of Chicago's most dangerous networks. But knowledge had not only been her weapon, it had morphed into a lifeline, a guiding framework for formidable choices ahead. With a newfound sense of purpose, she reflected upon her intentions. Emily realized they weren't solely anchored in the pursuit of the truth about Marco's life. They blossomed from her desire to forge a path for herself and her daughter, empowering them beyond the confines of fear. Hours later, seated at the interrogation table of her own making, Emily prepared for the ultimate challenge, confronting Marco. The anticipation thrummed in her veins as she envisioned what this moment would entail. Sustaining her commitment to the truth, she had decided it was time to reveal everything she had learned. She had crafted a plan. It would be grounded in honesty, no more hiding in shadows, no more games. The stakes included not just her safety, but the hope she held for creating a secure environment for her daughter, one without secrets or masquerades. That evening, she arrived at the Lantern, the familiar sounds of laughter and clinking glasses welcoming her. Marco glanced up from behind the bar, a flash of warmth igniting his expression as their eyes met. For a moment, the allure of him clouded her judgment, but that haze quickly evaporated, replaced by steely resolve. "Can we talk?" Emily asked, her tone more assertive than she had anticipated. The invitation was clear, giving him no room for dismissal. "Of course," he replied, motioning for 2 drinks. As he slid into the seat across from her, subtle tension hovered between them, a silent acknowledgement of the torrent of emotions lying just beneath the surface. "Things have changed for me," she began, leaning forward, her voice steady. "I know about your connections, Marco. What I thought was innocent has turned darker, and I feel compelled to understand." His expression shifted, the charm replaced with guarded apprehension. "What do you mean?" Emily took a deep breath, mustering the strength she had cultivated throughout her exploration. "I've learned everything I can. I refuse to ignore it. You need to be honest with me about who you are and what you're involved in." Silence enveloped them, stretching heavily, creating a void filled with myriad emotions. In that moment, Emily realized that confronting Marco wasn't merely about unraveling him, it was equally about asserting her own transformation. She had come to reclaim her narrative from a world overshadowed by fear, and she would not allow that world to define her. He finally exhaled, the tension easing slightly. "I never wanted to drag you into this life. Maybe you weren't aware, but the consequences are real," she shot back, her voice gaining a certain fervor. "This isn't just about you. It affects my daughter's safety too." For the first time, Marco looked vulnerable, the facade cracking. "I didn't choose this path for myself. It was all supposed to be temporary, an escape from my previous life." She could see the conflict raging within him. In his eyes reflected both truth and regret, a man worn down by choices made under pressure. "But you're not trapped anymore, Marco. You have choices. We both do." The flicker of recognition ignited a connection between them. The warmth she had once felt was now layered with an understanding of the turbulence they both faced. For the first time, she felt that pull between them transform from desire entwined with peril to something stronger, a shared commitment to growth and truth. "I want to be there for you, to help you if you truly wish to escape this," Emily stated firmly. "But you need to be honest about everything if we're going to navigate this together." Marco's head dropped, eyes swimming with turbulent thoughts. "I want that too. But it's complicated, there are others, there are dangers. Every path carries risks. But I know what it feels like to live in darkness," she replied, her voice unfaltering. "Choice is our best weapon against that darkness." In that raw and vulnerable exchange, they began to forge a path forward, not just as complicated individuals burdened by their respective pasts, but as partners willing to face their truth and dismantle the shadow emanating from fear. Emily felt alive again, no longer trapped by uncertainties. She was reclaiming her power. As the conversation deepened, the words that floated between them morphed from discomfort into clarity. Through this confrontation, Emily recognized the magnitude of her transformation. She had achieved not only understanding but also respect from Marco. She stood as an equal, rooted in authenticity. With unfolding purpose, they discussed support, strategies, and a shared intent to break away from the chains that bound them to their darker realities. Together, they would confront the shadowy networks before them, carving out a new future laced with possibilities. Stepping into her role with newfound confidence, Emily finally understood what it meant to confront her past mistakes and embrace her future: acceptance of her strength, willingness to embrace complexity, and commitment to resilience. As she left the lantern that night, a profound sense of accomplishment filled her. She had not merely unmasked Marco's truth, she had redefined her own journey through confrontation and collaboration. In that moment, clarity ignited within her. The life she envisioned for herself and her daughter was finally at her fingertips, forged through risk, resilience, and honest connection. The road ahead stretched before her, tinged with both dread and exhilaration. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, driven by the conviction that true empowerment blossomed from understanding, courage, and authentic partnership. Now was the time to act, to seize the opportunity to transform their fractured lives into a narrative defined not merely by struggle, but by strength. This moment marked not just a resolution of conflict but a realization of potential. Emily emerged not as a woman reshaped by circumstances, but as a powerful architect of her destiny. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. You need to subscribe now. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.